There's a story in the Bible about two sons and a father. The story is really about the love of the father, about how these two sons of his, they don't get it. The youngest son says to his dad, and he says, "You're dead to me." And so he takes all of this wealth and he wastes it. And he goes off to a distant country. Only then, far in his journey, does he realize that what he's been looking for has been at home all along. And so he makes a journey back home, and this father unconditionally loves him. The story is also about another son, a son who's never left home, who never went on a journey. And the whole time, this son has no idea how much his dad loves him. It's a really interesting story, and it's all about understanding and appreciating the love of God the Father. And we know that love through our own fathers. See, our fathers at their best or at their worst, our fathers reveal something really important to us. In their absence or in their presence, they give us an idea of who God is and the kind of father he is. Is he a father who loves us, who's passionate about us, who's intimate with us? Is he a father waiting to receive us with open arms? Or is he a father who's distant, a father who's always conditioning his love, a father who's always waiting for you to say, "I'm sorry"? Or is he a father who, when you come back to him, is staring at you, not with love, but with tolerance? We're all searching for something. We're all searching for that feeling of comfort and guidance and protection and strength. What we're really searching for is someone to show us what it means to be a man and how to love women. What we're really searching for is someone who can love us the way that we deserve. What we're really searching for is fatherhood. Let's meet Donny and talk with him about the questions in life that matter the most. Donny, thanks for joining us here on the show.
No problem.
So we're kind of talking about fatherhood and the role that our families really play in our lives and to the kind of men that we are. Just share with me a little bit about your life growing up.
Okay, well, as a kid, I didn't really have a father figure in my life, like someone to, tell you what to do, teach you how to play games, things like that. Something most kids, usually, even in today's world, have someone that they can look up to. And my dad left my family when I was 8 years old. And the same year, I was like, that's not too bad. I still have my grandpa to look up to. And then my grandpa passed away the same year. And so I didn't really have a father figure, I could, like teach me how to play catch and stuff like that. So that really led into a lot of problems in my life because like when I went to school, I didn't really have a lot of friends because as a male, as a guy, you're supposed to know how to play games, you're not supposed to play football, you're supposed to know the rules of basketball. And I never really was taught those things. And as much as my mom, she was, super supportive and always trying to teach me like how to do things. There was just, as a kid, she never really learned how to play the rules of things and things like that, because she was a girl, and so she didn't really know all the rules. She did try, and sometimes I would be like, but this is a rule, and it wasn't. But I never really held it against her or anything like that. Sure. She always tried her hardest. Yeah. And
so what would your mom describe you? What kind of kid were you?
Oh man, I was everywhere. Like I was off the walls. I was a pretty rambunctious kid. I was always getting into trouble, and she used to tell me, like, if you don't hear Donny, you should probably go check on Donny because he's probably getting into something. So
you had siblings?
Yeah, I have 4 other siblings. I have an older sister, an older brother, and a younger sister and a younger brother.
Did you get along with them?
Yeah, I usually got along with them. Me and my brothers liked the rough house a lot. There was always random mysterious holes in the wall because we would always, wrestle and tackle each other through the wall, and then there's a new poster over that.
And you're like 6'6". Are your brothers equally as big?
Yes. Right now, my younger brother, he's 6'7", and my older brother, he's 6'4". So as we got into high school, we're all like matching heights and size, and my younger brother, he weighs 260 pounds, and I weigh 230, so you can just imagine now, when we're roughhousing in a small house,
So how does your mom keep peace?
I don't know, a lot like, I'm very disappointed in you. Like, that's how, I'm like, wow, that hurt.
Right, I guess you can't spank you guys.
No, she would just always know exactly what to say. It was more of like, we were always trying to make her happy, and so if she wasn't happy with us, we're like, dang it, now I feel bad, because now we kind of broke the TV, or we kind of just made another hole in the room, and I feel bad about that. And of course, she didn't know about the holes yet, so I mean, we didn't tell her.
So without your dad in the picture, is that something that came up in the family? Did you talk about that with your brothers growing up?
You know, not really. It was kind of just like we knew what we had to do. We grew up really fast. I remember we didn't have a lot of money. We always had financial problems. And when I was 8 years old and my brother was 12, no, he was 10. He's 2 years older than me. We had to work on the truck. We had one truck to get us around. It was an old truck, and it broke down. And to people that don't really know much about cars, it was a radiator hose, and so it was leaking. And no one in our family knew anything about cars, and we fixed the hose, but my mom had no idea what was going on. I mean, because the car wasn't running, it was overheating, and we were able to fix it. We cut it off, and then we just put it on there, and and stuff like that. And basically, that's what me and my brother, when we were younger, we were like a tag team. I was like, oh, that looks broken, and I couldn't fix it. I was too young. My hands were not strong enough to do anything, and my older brother would fix it. And and my mom was just like, she was inside praying because she needed to be to work in the morning, and I needed to be at school the next day. And she was just praying her heart out in the house, and we were in the garage, and it was
that our
like,
boys can fix.
Yeah, her 8-year-old and her 10-year-old sons could fix the truck so she could get to work, and we wouldn't lose the house or anything.
I mean, that's a great thing that you guys are doing, but that's a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah, it was. But I mean, at the time, it was just, it didn't seem like it was a lot of pressure, and it was just like I knew this is what we had to do, and the same thing for when we. I knew I felt useless, like around the house, because my mom was always struggling to pay the house payment, always struggling to pay the electric bill, there was always bills. And she always wanted to make us feel like we couldn't get by without any small luxuries. Like she always tried to take us camping. And I knew it was always a problem because going camping, it cost money that we didn't have, that we needed to spend on
things that you need.
Things that we needed. But she didn't want our vacation, our summer vacation, to go by without having some kind of vacation, like make us feel like a normal family, you know. And so she'd always scrape and try and get us enough money so we could go camping. But one summer, ever since I was 10 years old, I was like, Mom, let me get a job. And she's like, no, Donnie, you're a kid, you don't need to get a job. I was 11, I did the same thing. I was like, Mom, come on, you gotta let me get a job. And then finally, I was playing I was playing on a basketball team when I was 12, and my basketball coach, he was the caddy master for a golf course in the area, and he said you had to be 13 to work as a caddy. And I was like, and I talked to him, I was like, I'm not 13, but I mean, if I get my mom's permission, will you let me work for you? I mean, my brother will work, I'm sure he'll want to work too. And so I got my first job when I was 12 years old, and I worked as a caddy, and I worked on weekends, and so did my brother. And so we would get dropped off sometimes, on the weekends, and then we'd be there most of the mornings on Saturdays and Sundays. And then, but we got enough money, and we could finally, I didn't feel like as useless anymore because I finally had money to help with house payments and things like that. And
so in all this time, does your dad ever come back? I mean, is he part of your life at that point?
No, he actually pled for no contest for custody for us. So he's just like, you just keep him. The first time I saw him was about the first time in about 15 years. I saw him last October at a hearing for back child support taxes, and he never said anything to me. He just looked kind of intimidated, of course, because
you're 6'6".
I'm 6'6", and he's like barely 6 foot, and so I tower over the guy, and he's like, "Oh crap!" But no, he was never really a good father. He was abusive, and I think that was one of the reasons why he was scared of me, because I'm like, "No, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. You're just an idiot," but he was just not a good guy. He would, to be honest, with him in the house was actually worse because he would basically steal from the family. Like there was days that when he wasn't there, I mean, when he left, it was hard because we didn't have anything. But when he was still living with us, there would be days when we would go without having dinner or food because he would go and spend the money on something else that just, any random stuff. And like I remember one time he came back with a Firebird, and a car, and we were just like, we don't have the money for this. And I mean, I thought it was cool because I was like 6 or 7, and I was like, that's a cool car. But at the time, I didn't realize that, it's like we needed this money. This was for the house payment. Like we almost lost the house because he bought this car.
So in all of this, what part did faith play in your life?
Yeah, it was. My mom always, no matter what, my mom always had us. We always went to church, and at times when we could, we would go on Sundays to, or Sundays, and I think it was also Saturdays too. It played a lot because I would pray with my mom and stuff, and then we'd go into, we'd do mass and stuff, and we always had family prayer time, every once in a while. It wasn't really like a.
Would you say that you really knew Jesus growing up, or was that faith was just kind of what you guys just kind of always did, and it was just supportive in the background?
Yeah, it was always something. I always felt Jesus was there, and I always knew because we were always praying about things, and there was always a sense of comfort when we prayed, and it wasn't like, it was kind of like he was a father figure, and I didn't realize that until later in life, but it was when we needed anything or needed anything to present itself in our lives, we always had time to pray, and we prayed about it. And there would be times when my mom would just be like praying so much about something, and it always seemed to happen in just the weirdest ways. And if we needed money, God would always provide. And it was just, it was really great because at the time I didn't really realize what was going on exactly, but I could always count on God to be like, if you need this, you can have it.
So it was around a group of kids who wanted to know about how my daughter was born. So I started telling them this crazy story of not getting to the hospital on time, of grabbing like plastic bags to bring it into my car, hoping to God that my daughter wouldn't be born early in the backseat of a Chevy Cruze. We get to the hospital and nothing worked out. And there I was, panicked and frantic, feeling helpless. I couldn't do anything. My beautiful wife in pain. And then the moment my daughter was born and I held her for the first time, and she was just so beautiful. So I'm telling the kids this story, and I'm looking around the room, and there's and a lot of kids were just listening, but it was the extreme reactions that I thought was really telling. On one side, there was a group of kids who were just kind of tearing up. The other side, there were these kids who were just really uncomfortable about my emotions. And it was really weird as I started thinking about it later. Some of those kids have fathers who love them and they know it. And then there are other kids who have fathers who don't love them and they know it too. And they're uncomfortable by it and they're desperate for it. See, we have a crisis of fatherhood, a crisis that's exacerbated in the culture we live in today. Fathers are meant to create life and to sustain it and to sacrifice for it. And in that crisis, Jesus shows up and reveals to us his Father.
Did you like the program you just watched? Help Shalom World bring more programs like this to a global audience. Your support helps us share the peace of Christ with the world. Visit shalomworld.org/donate.
A friend of mine recently lost his daughter. And I remember at the funeral, watching him carry up the casket of his daughter. With every step he was taking, there were tears in his eyes. And when he finally laid her in front of the altar at the Mass, he looked around at the crowd and he shared with them a short story. And I knew as he was saying it that he loved his daughter and he would do anything to have her back. But even as he was talking and in the middle of tears, I also knew that he had joy because he knew that as good of a father as he ever could be, she is with the perfect father. The way that our fathers love us or don't affect everything about us. So let's return to our conversation with Donny and find out exactly what God wants to do in his life. So at what point did you have a deeper experience of God?
My mom would always tell me, she's like, you know, Donny, God doesn't give you anything that you can't handle, and you can handle a lot. And I was like, and I knew I could, and so even as a young kid, like, you know, even your parents like need a confidant, and a lot of times I would be my mom's confidant, and so she would talk to me about a lot of things that, you know, were just should be learning in a grown-up world, about like bills and things like that. And I would talk to her, and we would talk about it, and I couldn't have been older than like 10 years old at this point. But I mean, I really believe that God really doesn't give you any more than you can handle. Who I am from the world, when, I mean, it just makes me unhappy anyway. And so from that point, I really I felt like I had a connection with God, like a deeper connection, like a more mature connection. And I could talk to him, and I felt more like he was there with me, and not just like a grandfather figure who's like, you know, around, but kind of like keeps his, you know, so keeps it to himself and doesn't say anything unless he's needed. But God kind of became more like a father. Right, exactly. He became more of a father figure in my life, and when I needed something, I would always talk to God. I'm like, and even if I didn't, I would just like, something would happen. I'm like, man, God, that guy's an idiot. You know, like, why would he say those things to me? Like, that's so mean. Like, yeah, but it really got me past, like, you know, we aren't solely of this world, and so God and it just felt good to know that I had someone on my side on 100% of the time, no matter what. And he knew exactly, because he was right there experiencing it with me. And so whatever I was going through, I could always turn to him and, you know, talk to him and be like, you know, I need some help with this. I don't really know what to do. But I mean, even after that point, you know, you still have your ups and your downs. There were points where, you know, I would forget about talking to God and, you know, bringing him into my life and asking him to help me with things. And at those points, I was pretty depressed. Like, and I didn't realize it. I thought I was happy because I was getting into other things. And so, I mean, I thought if I had all these distractions that, you know, I didn't know they were I was lying to myself, because I was like, no, these aren't distractions. This is what makes me happy. And in reality, it's like, no, you need to get rid of all that, and, you know.
So you've kind of had the beginnings of a deeper relationship with God, and moving to college. Do you find that that's helped you to kind of heal, or to forgive, and to kind of, I don't know, let go of some of the baggage that your dad left?
Yeah, it definitely did help, because I was like, you know, as I got into college, I kind of realized, I was like, I might not have had a father on earth, but I was like, I have a father in heaven, and he's like the best father ever, because, you know, he understands everything, and he's always there for you. You know, I mean, no matter how hard an earthly father can try to be and do everything that you need, sometimes it's just not possible. But even if you do have an earthly father, you still need God the Father. And so a lot of times I think a lot of people don't realize that they need both as well. And so, but once you know you have God the Father, you don't have that physical tie that you think you need a father here on earth. And so I was like, yeah, I might have grown up without a dad, but, you know, it's not the end of the world.
And to all the other people out there who may have come from that same kind of circumstance, you know, who deserved love from both parents, may not have gotten it for whatever the reason, what would you say to them?
I tell them, don't be a burden to your parent that you have left, because they're doing everything they can to be there for you and do everything they can to help you out. I mean, I do understand that in some situations, you know, neither parents help you out, but, you know, there's always somewhere you can turn. You don't have to turn to people that don't have your best interest in mind. And I mean, if it wasn't for, youth groups or Newman Center or anything like that, I probably wouldn't be in the same place I am now, but I mean, with at least one parent that helped me, direct me towards God and stuff, I think I would be, where I need to be. But if you don't have either helping you out, you can always try and find someone, because if you turn to, people that like to party all the time and want to just use you for whatever.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people, right, who almost prey on broken people. Mm-hmm. And we all kind of look for that attention. And so, kind of in your faith story, finding kind of the key people who really just love you, mm-hmm. and they just want your best interest, right. And asking God for those people to come back into your life to kind of help bring you home.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to kind of be smart on who to choose and who to know that actually is looking out for you, and not being like, this person might not be the funnest person in the world, but they are looking out for me, and I know they do care about me. So yeah.
Well, Donny, thank you for sharing your story with us, and thank you for coming back home.
Yeah.
There's a story of an earthquake in Armenia that's been told by so many different people. But at the heart of this story is a father who keeps telling his son every single day, I love you and I'll always be there for you. And there's a son who's dropped off at school. And as his father drives home, an earthquake hits. And all he can think about is the promise that he made his son. I love you and I'll always be there for you. So what does he do? He turns around and he goes back to that school, and there at the school, it's completely leveled. And he goes to the corner of the school where he remembers his son's classroom would be, and he starts digging. Hours and hours and hours. People keep telling him, give up, it's hopeless, everybody's dead. And he essentially says, either you join me or you step out of the way. I told my son I love him and I'll always be here for him. And almost into the next day, as the father's picking up rubble with hands that are bloody and broken, he feels his son's head. And into the darkness, he pulls out his son alive. And then his son tells him that there are others trapped under there. And so together, they pull out 13 or 14 other classmates. And the son is known to say to his friends, see, I told you, if my father was alive, he'd come for me. And this is the story of God the Father. And even if we don't have fathers who love us perfectly, even if our fathers try but fail, the Father never gives up. What we're really searching for is a God who never gives up on us. So remember, seek and you shall find.
Jesus, let your kingdom come here. Let your will be done here in us. Jesus, there is no one greater. You alone are Savior. Show the world your love. King of heaven, come down. King of heaven, come now. Let your glory reign, shining like the day. King of heaven, come. King of heaven, rise up. Who can stand against us? You are strong to save, in your mighty name, King of heaven, come. We are children of your mercy, rescued for your glory. We cry, Jesus, set our hearts towards you, and every eye would see you lifted high. King of heaven, come down. King of heaven, come now. Let your glory reign, shining like the day. King of heaven, come. King of heaven, rise up. Who can stand against us? You are strong to save, in your mighty name, King of heaven, come. Let your glory reign, shining